a lot of bisexuals don't really want to have understanding or empathy for the lesbian experience, and a lot of the beef, the online beef between lesbians and bisexuals, is simply proof of that. Like a lot of it kind of just goes down to the idea of like a lot of people don't care about lesbians enough to actually get in their brains and ask, why do you act like that? Why do you act like that? And it is it because you hate me, or is it because you're a woman who dates other women in a world that rewards women for associating with men and punishes women when they don't associate with men? I feel like Loki. A lot of you guys be like, a lot of you guys be acting as if lesbians are like the villains of your story, as if gay men don't exist, and as if gay men are not, generally speaking, very sexist easily. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's like, what's going on here? Why is it so easy for you guys to like hate on us when a lot of times we're just over here crying Tracy Chapman, you know? And I'm not saying that biphobia doesn't exist. I'm just saying a lot of the biphobic allegations come from people who in many cases are very privileged, and they feel guilty for their privilege. And because they feel guilty for their privilege, they like to overcompensate by going to the person that they feel insecure about not being and getting on that person. And I say that as a black woman who, do you know how like black women are demonized because black women are oppressed a lot, and a lot of times they're demonized by people who are more oppressed by them, because people who are more oppressed sometimes feel guilty about their privilege, and instead of dealing with it in a mature manner, they kind of like go to the person that they wish they could be oppressed like, and they get on that person. That's kind of the vibe I get from a lot of the lesbian hate, because I'm like, what did lesbians do to you outside of not date you? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Okay, all right. Hi, I'm the loud lesbian, and I'm sorry for my two subscribers that are now stuck subscribing to me. I mean, I guess you can unsubscribe because that's how that works. But yeah, I rant about everything. I know there's two people who follow me because I on my rant on Stranger Things. I see you. I see you. But yeah, I'm a lesbian, as my title says, as my profile says. And I kind of want to touch on things I touch a lot on TikTok, where like I kind of just, TikTok is not made for people who like to yap. I like to yap. I'm a theater major, and not only am I a theater major, I also have a speech impediment. And one thing about people with speech impediments is that like we are talkative. Okay, all right. So TikTok didn't like that. So I'm hoping that YouTube is a little bit kinder, and also maybe who knows, maybe that theater degree can do a little bit, can help with this. Who knows? Anyhow, yeah, I wanted. If you see me look over here, I have my computer of my like. I wrote some stuff down because sometimes I just, when I talk, I figure what I wanted to say. So I have some stuff written down, and I just want to like have a discussion. Have a discussion. This is not a hate post against lesbians or bisexuals. It is simply a discussion. Please, 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 please. Okay, lesbians and bisexuals are amazing. It's okay. All right. We have to remember, we are not enemies to each other. We're different, but we're not enemies. Okay, like guys, what do you? Why are you hitting on lesbians when men are right there? You don't carry pepper spray to protect yourself from lesbians. Okay, we are not the enemy. Anyhow, there is a lot of lesbian hate online. There's always been a lot of lesbian hate online. It's lesbians are simply too easy to hate. I mean, we're women who by nature don't associate with women. A lot of the stereotypes against lesbians are easy to make because it's easy to hate on somebody that is in direct opposition of how society wants to be run. You know what I'm saying? Like society loves men, and lesbians exist in a matriarchy. So of course society hates lesbians. And I say that because a lot of people forget that, and when they start getting on lesbians, they forget that like, hey, it's so easy for you to get on lesbians, and it's so easy for you to make hate posts on lesbians, and you get so many views when you make hate posts on lesbians because that's what society wants you to do. It hates lesbians. If it was up to society's choice, so society, lesbians would not exist. You understand that, right? Like there's a reason why like there's a guy on TikTok right now. There's a like who is getting views, like I can't curse. Yeah, who's getting views hating on lesbians, and people are backing him up in the comments, and like he's getting views by trying doing the old measures of all lesbians are biphobic. And here's the thing, that's old. That's not even true. But like nobody's really calling him out in the comment section, being like, hey, even if this was true, why are you talking about this? Is not your discussion. And the reason for that is because nobody cares about us. Like it's so easy to hate on us. It's so easy. It's too easy almost, you know? And yeah. So so anyhow, I want to talk about how a lot of times a lot of these strife between bisexuals and lesbians is goes back to the idea of both sides struggling with understanding the other side and both sides expecting the other side to be more like them than they are. Okay? A lot of times both sides equally. This is not a hate post against either side. A lot of times bisexuals expect lesbians to be more like them, and lesbians expect bisexuals to be more like them. And a lot of the hatred of why I can't date lesbians, why I can't date bisexuals, basically goes down to the fact of they're not bi, and I'm bi, so I expect them to act like a bi person, or they're not a lesbian, and I'm a lesbian, so I expect them to act like a lesbian. You know what I'm saying? Like, not to bring on my ex here, but like, my ex was bisexual, and during our almost 2-year relationship, she would try to on multiple occasions gaslight me about being bisexual. Like, my ex did not believe that I was a lesbian. She did not, and she would be like, "You don't think that man's hot?" And I'm like, "No, that's not me, girl. That's you. Love you. I love you." But like, and also, why are we talking about that when like we're in a relationship together? What's going on here? Like, and she would just like look at me like, I know you, I see you, or I know you. And partially is because when I was with her, I presented very femme. So I think in her mind she couldn't conceive the idea that like a feminine presenting person could be fully gay. And yeah, not fully gay, I mean a lesbian. And yeah, that was kind of disorienting because she would do it on multiple occasions. And here's the thing: here's my personal rule as a lesbian: is no matter how closeted a woman may seem, I will never, under any condition, say you might be gay. Why? Because that's not my choice to make. It's like, that's your journey, not mine. Now, if you ask me directly, if you ask me, hey, do you think I'm a straight woman? I won't respond, but I am never going to try to like convince somebody that they're something that they are not, because that's not my job. That's a breach of privacy, personal, nah, okay? So, and I will say, I did encounter that a lot with my ex, and I do encounter that a lot online whenever I talk about this kind of stuff. Like, I one time, I remember a bisexual woman commented on my page, she was like, I think everybody's a little bit fluid in their sexuality. I don't think anybody's really truly one way or the other. And here's the thing: that sounds beautiful, but it's simply not true. And also, it's invalidating. And also, it's weird that you're saying that to a lesbian. Lesbians who are famously constantly told by men that you just haven't met the right guy yet, you're not actually fully gay. And yeah, it is invalidated. And look, here's the thing: as a bisexual person, I understand that your sexuality is many times fluid. A lot of times you have more a preference for one side or the other, and it flows back and forth. But one thing I found, that a lot of bisexuals struggle with the idea that like that's not true for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And they struggle with the idea of how different lesbians and bisexuals are. And lesbians also struggle with this. Okay, this is, again, lesbians also struggle with this in the idea that a lot of lesbians forget that bisexuals are not lesbians. They'd be like, you have a male ex? Yeah, girl, she's not a lesbian. Well, like, of course she has a male ex. Like, why would she, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's, and yeah, it's almost like whenever both sides interact with the other, the frustration boils down to, you're not exactly my sexuality, and they're not. And that's beautiful. There's beauty in that difference. But we need to kind of touch on it a little bit, because like, we would get along so much better if we acknowledge that difference, like if we, like, cause yes, there is the sapphic experience, the generalized sapphic experience, but there's also the lesbian, specifically under that umbrella of the sapphic experience. There's also the lesbian experience, and there's also the bisexual experience, and they're very different. They are very different. The lesbian experience over here, the bisexual experience over there, they're both under the umbrella of sapphic-ness, but they're very different. And in order for us to get along well, we need to acknowledge that difference if we expect to have any, like, especially since we're in close capacity with each other, and if we expect to have any, like, good vibes with each other going forward, you know what I'm saying? And I want to touch on this because, I'm going to say it, les for les, okay? If you one common thing you see on TikTok is the idea that, like, if you are a les for les lesbian, that means you have to be biphobic. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like the sentiment is most les for les lesbians are les for les because they hate bisexuals. And that's not true. That's not true. But I feel like the reason this exists because a lot of bisexuals can't conceive how different bisexuals and lesbians are. So they can't conceive, like, why a lesbian may want to only be with other lesbians outside of them being biphobic, when in reality, in the same way that like a black person only wanting to date other black people because that having that shared experience and having that shared like trauma is so intrinsic to them feeling safe in a relationship, many lesbians also need that shared experience, because the shared experience of a lesbian with another lesbian is very different than a shared experience that a bisexual and lesbian may have. It's similar, okay? When my ex and I were together, we were similar enough that we dated. Low-key, we dated, again, for almost 2 years. But our experience was not the same. One of us only had attraction to women. The other one had attraction to men and women. And no tea, no shade, but that's a huge difference. And like in the same way that like, a black person dating a white person may find true love, a lot of times it's easy for black people to date other black people because you don't have to explain certain things to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, as I have 4C hair, okay? 4C hair is very complicated to explain to a non-black person because 4C hair is very, it's specific. It would be easier for me to date another black woman because I wouldn't need to explain all, the things that black people automatically know about black hair because we're both black women. Like my ex was a black woman. She used to do my hair, and it was nice, and it was chill to not have to like explain to her that like, yes, my hair is growing, it's just super curly, so it looks like it's not, and that convenience is enough for a lot of people to like stay within a certain dating preference, because the convenient, not having to explain little things like that allows for more space to grow a deeper relationship faster. And it's convenient. You know what I'm saying? Is in the same way that it's more convenient for me to date another black person as a black person, it's more convenient for a lot of lesbians to date another lesbian as a lesbian, because you don't need to explain to them of how, how you can acknowledge somebody's attractiveness without being attractive to them. How you can acknowledge somebody not being ugly without being attracted to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I, like a lot of people, like, it's like, it's this weird sense. I remember my ex, I explained to my ex how like, I remember one time we watched, I'm scattered brain. I'm being scattered brain. But anyhow, I remember one time we watched Best Man together, me and my ex, and Morris Chestnut came on stream, and I was like, you know what? He is the most handsome person in this world. And she was like, oh, but you're a lesbian. I'm like, yes, I'm a lesbian, but Morris Chestnut is not ugly. He's not ugly. That doesn't make me a bisexual. He's just not ugly. And from that point, she started trying to gaslight me into thinking that I was actually, bisexual. And I was like, girl, no. I just, like, what would you want me to, like, if I don't want to, no, I don't want to be with him, but, like, he's not ugly. And, you know what I'm saying? It's just, it's, like, it's a weird, it's a lot of times the inconveniences come, there's an inconvenient element of dating somebody who has a very specific difference in your experience and your mental headspace, and a lot of times that inconvenience is so much so that people just realize based on experience that, hey, low-key, I don't want to deal with that inconvenience. And for me, I never want to have to deal with the inconvenience of having to explain my sexuality to somebody who does not understand it in the way that I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, the lesbian experience is so specific and so different and so unique and so uniquely hard and so like different. Like, because again, lesbians operate on a patriarchy. Okay, speech impediment. Don't laugh. Lesbians exist on a matriarchy. That is a whole different level. Like, that's a whole different level of like, lesbians decenter men in such a insane way that a lot of times people call it misandrous, when it's not actually misandrous. It's just them, like, when you're not attracted to a man, a lot of times sometimes you forget they exist. Like, it's actually insane actually to explain it. And that insanity, having to explain the headspace of being a lesbian, it's so inconvenient for a lot of lesbians, and that is enough for them to be less. Oh my god, that is enough for them to be less and that's not because they hate bisexuals. And the same way, if you're bisexual, I feel like the experience of being attracted to both sexualities is so different and so unique and so like hard to explain to somebody who is straight or lesbian, that like it probably would be more convenient for you to be bi for bi. Okay, low key, my unpopular opinion is that, like, in the same way that a lot of black people are more compatible with other black people because, we don't need to explain racism and the experience of being a black person in America to another black person who is in America. Um, I think like most lesbians are more compatible with lesbians. I think most bi people are more compatible with bi people. That's my thing. Okay, like low key, I'm never like it's for me being les for les is like the once you go black you'll never go back. Like I am never ever going to date another non-lesbian because it's just like the first time I went on a lesbian date it was like a wow, I didn't realize you can have such a connection immediately and not have to explain stuff, like it's that wow, you're not trying to gaslight me that I like men. You're not trying to tell me that like because your sexuality is fluid, my sexuality has to be fluid too. Wow, like it was like this. It was like woo, And for me, that was enough for me to immediately be like, nah, I'm never going back. And yeah, like I feel like whenever bisexuals are confused by the existence and the need for being les for les, they forget that like how different we are. Like bisexuals, you guys are beautiful. I feel like it must be so amazingly complicated to be bi, and I will never understand because I'm not bi. And like I feel like I would challenge a bisexual who doesn't understand the need for les to like try bi for bi, and like it's what I'm saying, like just try it because like having that instant connection, that instant shared experience is like it's mind blowing. It really is. It's mind blowing, And yeah, and it's also creates more beauty between our two communities because acknowledging differences in the same way that like there are so many cultures in the world and acknowledging the different cultures allows us to be more beautiful as a whole. Acknowledging differences between bisexuals and lesbians allows the sapphic community to be more beautiful as a whole. We're not all the same, okay? We're not all the same. That's what makes us beautiful. We're not all black and white, we're not all the same shade of white. We're not all the same shade of brown skin. Like, that's what makes us wonderful. It would be a boring world if bisexuals and lesbians were practically the same. It would be boring, okay? It's more exciting to think about how different we are. And I include pansexual in this. I'm sorry. I forgot. Pansexual. I'm sorry. It's everything I say also goes for pansexual people too. And it's just that, like, I say this because not only does not acknowledging differences between our two communities cause a lot of strife, but also it like there is no end. You know what I'm saying? There is the conclusion to like one thing you see a lot is lesbians getting upset that bisexuals insert themselves in lesbian in conversations, and then the bisexuals are like, well, why can't we? We're the same thing, girl. And I'm like, no, we're cousins. We're not even siblings. I wouldn't even call us siblings. We're cousins. So like, you guys have your bisexual conversations, but like, a lot of times it seems as if there's this weird psyop of trying to convince lesbians that we're not lesbians, and a lot of lesbians feel that weird like pressure, and because of that, a lot of lesbians are prioritize being in more lesbian spaces where that pressure of you're not really lesbian isn't there, and that's a valid thing. That's a valid feeling to have. That's okay. Sometimes you need to be exclusatory, just a little bit, to make people feel safe. Not, and I don't mean that in like a segregation. I mean that like a. I mean that like a. Everybody's not invited to the cookout type of vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the idea that the cookout is the black surrounding is the black gathering of black families to like remember everything that our ancestors have been through and everything that our ancestors have dealt with. Okay, everybody is not invited to the black cookout to the cookout, because if everybody was invited, it would no longer be such a safe, intimate space for people with a specific type of trauma. Okay, everybody is not invited in lesbian spaces because if everyone's invited, it would no longer be a lesbian space. It would just be a queer space or a sapphic space. And nothing's wrong with that. When that's needed, that's amazing. But at the same time, it's important to acknowledge the differences so that we can have these conversations and have these understandings, and that we can have this space for these just having that mental space of like safe like vibe and not having to explain anything. Like, it's amazing not having to explain my sexuality or my blackness or my hair. And because of that, for me, my best solution is to date other black lesbians, date other black women who know what it's like to experience colorism, date other women who knows what it's like to be a black lesbian, because being a black lesbian is very different than being a white lesbian, because black lesbians are masculinized in a certain way, like automatically. Like when people find out I'm a lesbian, they're like, oh, you must be a stud, and I'm like, have you met a stud before? Have you met a stud before? Like, you know, like, I don't know, like, it's just, it's for me, the more specific I get when it comes to dating, the more I find contentment, you know? And I'm not trying to find my version. I'm not trying to find Ariana Part 2, my partner. What I'm trying to find is somebody who understands what it's like to be me, who understands what it's like to be a black woman, who understands what it's like to be a non-gender conforming black lesbian, who understands what it's like to be part of the trans community and still be a lesbian. Like, I'm trying to find somebody who is like that. That means I have to be exclusive, and that's okay. It's okay to be exclusive sometimes. Okay, being exclusive doesn't automatically mean prejudice. It just means we're creating a specific space to make oppressed people feel safer.